When you deal with an emotionally immature person or someone that has MPD, you are not the one that's overreacting. In most cases, it's them. When we are dealing with emotionally immature individuals or people with MPD, we are usually going to get caught up in conversations where the other person overreacts. The other person is triggered by a very small thing that we may have said. And when this happens, it hits us out of nowhere and we have no idea what has just happened and why their reactions are so big. Now, if we talk about complex post-traumatic stress disorder, complex trauma, the reactions that somebody has to a slight criticism, to an opinion may be huge. And this is called a trigger. And a trigger usually takes us back to our childhood. It takes us to the past, not the present. So when somebody has a huge reaction to something that we may have said to them in the present, we need to remind ourselves that they are reacting to something in the past. But it's important to know this because it's not our fault that this person reacts in such a disproportionate manner. Now let's go through 6 different ways that an emotionally immature individual or a narcissistic individual reacts to something that is disproportionate and that makes the other person feel like they don't know what just happened. Now, before we dive into the 6 different reactions that an emotionally immature or narcissistic individual has, it's important to talk about what this may look like, what an example of this may be. It may be that you want to tell your partner that you're really upset with them for hurting you yesterday. What they said was unkind and you really wanted to bring this up with them because you wanted to repair and feel better. And your partner reacts in a disproportionate manner by either deflecting, defending, blaming you, getting really upset, crying, making it all about them. This is an example of somebody who isn't truly listening and empathizing to the fact that they hurt you. They are not able to regulate themselves in a healthy manner, apologize, be accountable, and ask you how to repair. So we are going to go through these 6 different reactions in more detail. Now, the first reaction of somebody who has emotional immaturity or has a personality disorder is that when you bring something up, they immediately lash out. And this is known as the fight trauma response. So when somebody lashes out, they can say really mean things. They may dish out all sorts of things that you have done wrong in the past. They won't be able to just sit with the discomfort that they're feeling in that moment. And because they're not able to do this, there is no repair in the relationship and they don't take any responsibility for what they may have done to upset you. The second reaction you'll notice if you want to bring up a grievance with somebody that is emotionally immature is that they completely shut down emotionally. And this is known as the freeze response. They essentially stonewall you, which means that you feel like you are talking to a stone wall. They are so overwhelmed by what you have said to them that the only way they can cope is by shutting down. And this again has to do with not being able to emotionally regulate and not being able to handle that discomfort. And this is obviously a coping mechanism that they have learned from childhood. They may have done this a lot as a child and it just followed them into adulthood and they don't know how else to cope with overwhelming emotions or with a criticism or with somebody being upset with them. They immediately shut down as a protective mechanism. And they can't help it. And of course, just like with any other unhealthy reaction, there is no chance to repair. There is no chance for them to take responsibility. And for the other person, it's really difficult because they are just left with holding that tension that they felt in the first place. There's no clarity, there's no resolve, and this is very uncomfortable for the other person. When somebody else emotionally shuts down, there is literally nothing you can do. Now, the third emotional reaction you will notice in somebody is that it is extremely disproportionate. It's a disproportionate reaction to something that you may have said that is really quite minor. Because the emotionally immature person or narcissist has very low distress tolerance and hasn't got the ability to emotionally regulate, they will fly off the handle. And this, of course, will make you feel like you have to fawn, feel like you have to over-apologize or over-explain. But this isn't obviously healthy. A healthy individual will be able to listen. Even if they feel discomfort, they'll be able to regulate themselves in that discomfort. They'll be able to listen, apologize, ask you what they can do differently, etc., etc. And the problem is that when you're dealing with somebody who flies off the handle like this, who has such a huge reaction to something so small, and especially if you're in a relationship with them, you will then worry about bringing anything up with them in the future. And this essentially means that you won't be able to talk about things with them that are upsetting you, because you're always going to be scared of their overreaction. But the problem with this is that if the other person doesn't take accountability, if the other person doesn't try and find healthy ways to manage their disproportionate reaction, you are always going to hold stuff in, and this is going to damage the relationship, because you are going to feel like your partner is not really hearing you, is not really there for you. And as you can imagine, this cannot end well. Now, the fourth big reaction that you'll notice with somebody that cannot cope, that doesn't emotionally regulate, is that they will become very passive aggressive towards you. Which means that when you bring something up, they will give you the cold shoulder, they will give you the silent treatment, they will make jokes about things when actually they really mean it. They will say that they're fine when they're actually not. They will maybe guilt trip you. But be aware that when somebody is passive aggressive, they are trying to punish you indirectly for making them feel bad, because they can't really deal with confrontation. And passive aggression is still aggression. They're still trying to control you, influence you, make you feel bad. But don't gaslight yourself into believing that it's your fault. When someone is acting in a passive aggressive way, they can be really cruel to you, and you will feel it in your body. You will feel the effect that this has on you. So don't ignore it. Now, what is the fifth reaction to a grievance you may bring up? Well, this is known as emotional hijacking. Have you ever been in the situation where you bring up a grievance, you bring up something with your partner that you really didn't find comfortable, that they may have done that upset you or hurt you, and what happens is, in that moment, your partner will emotionally hijack the whole conversation, and they will make it about them. And it will go a bit like this. You'll say something and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm such a horrible person. How could I do this? What is wrong with me? God, I feel so terrible. I'm an idiot. And they go on and on and on. And basically they get so caught up in their own feelings that they forget to address what you've told them. And you end up being the one that is trying to help them feel better, when actually it was you that brought up that grievance in the first place. And you end up comforting them. They are essentially turning your vulnerability, your hurt, your disappointment into their crisis. And it's not their crisis. This was actually your thing. You needed to talk to them about something that was upsetting you. You shouldn't be the one that is looking after them emotionally. They should be able to acknowledge what you've said to them, deal with it, repair, ask you what you can do better next time, apologize, take accountability. Not make it about them, not emotionally hijack the whole conversation and make you feel like you're the one that should look after them. And it may be that they're not even realizing they're doing this. And again, these are triggers, these are things that come from their childhood. These are coping mechanisms, but they don't serve you well in a relationship. The last trigger that is disproportionate with an emotionally immature or narcissistic individual is that they will end up going into a shame spiral when you bring something up that has upset you. Some people can feel immense shame when somebody brings something up that they've done, and they get extremely defensive. They feel helpless, they feel hopeless, And it's also known as toxic shame, which is something that Peter Walker has mentioned in his book, CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. When somebody goes into a shame spiral, they will blame you, they will deny what you've said, they'll get really defensive, and this is obviously self-protection. When the other person tells them that they've done something wrong, they actually feel like they are wrong. That's where the shame comes in. They feel like they are a defective, worthless human. And when that happens, they can't come out of it. They will feel despair. They will feel helpless. They will feel worthless. And when a person falls into this trap of feeling so ashamed, it's very hard to climb out of that. It's a huge trigger. It's unbearable for them to handle this. And because this is so unbearable, the other person can't really do anything to make this better. If the other person is aware that this happens to them and they feel ashamed, they can maybe comfort them and say, look, I'm not saying there's something wrong with you as a person. I still love you. I still think you're great. But what you did was hurtful, and I wish you could maybe try and change that. You know, you can have a conversation like that, but it doesn't always work, because you've got to remember, somebody that's emotionally immature, somebody that has narcissism, doesn't necessarily have the ability to change. They don't necessarily want to do therapy or work on themselves or grow, and you can't force them to do that. You have to make the decision on whether you can handle staying in a relationship with this person. It's completely up to the individual what they do when they are dealing with somebody like this. A lot of the times this happens and it's not conscious. Obviously, if you're dealing with somebody with MPD, some of the behaviors they do are very conscious. They can be sadistic, they can be cruel, and they enjoy being sadistic and cruel. I'm not saying that you put up with somebody that has MPD, but there is a difference when someone has emotional immaturity and when someone has MPD. Somebody that is emotionally immature may still want to work on themselves, may still find techniques to deal with the difficulties that they have when they're triggered. But it's completely up to the person in the relationship with them to manage how they deal with that, to see if they feel comfortable continuing such a relationship. So that is the end of the video today, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found it helpful. If you would like to comment, please feel free to do so. Share your experiences. And if you have any questions, or you are in need of coaching, or you would like to try one-on-one online art therapy, or even group art therapy, which I'm offering, please let me know. Thank you so much for listening and for watching, and I will see you very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.